Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for attending our first School of Engineering Summer Transfer Credit webinar for this semester. I say that because each of the advisors within the School of Engineering Hub will actually be hosting a webinar as well. So if you have friends that weren't able to attend tonight's session, we will be having these later on in the semester in March as well. So what we wanted to do, however, is hold this webinar before registration for a couple different reasons. So I am working with students and working to help you register for the fall 2022 semester. I've had a number of questions, and everyone else in the hub has as well, about summer courses and summer registration. So in addition to some other resources that we've made available to you, what I wanted to do was get on the line to answer any questions that you may have, but really give an overall general overview of the process of taking summer classes and what you can expect. So what we will be going over today. First off, I'll be talking a bit about the hidden curriculum. This is something that you are sent information for every time we have an episode. However, we have a specific hidden curriculum episode that covers summer courses, and that was sent to you. So if you view that, some of this might actually be repeat, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. Next, I'll talk about taking summer courses and some reasons behind students choosing to take courses over the summer. I'll also talk about the summer course approval process, the steps that you'll want to take here at RPI, as well as what you'll want to do once you actually take that course. That'll include the process of getting your records transferred back over here. I'll also talk a bit about fall 2022 registration. And if you are taking a class that happens to be a prerequisite for any of the classes you'll be taking in fall 2022, but you're taking it this summer, when you register for courses this next month and in April, you won't be able to register for that specific class without being authorized. So I'll talk a bit about that process and what that looks like. But really what I wanted to do today is be on the line to answer any questions that you might have. Again, we'll be muted for the duration of this webinar. Feel free to put any questions you do have into the chat, and I will get to them. So to begin, for those of you who don't know me, I do see mostly familiar names on the line. My name is Valerie Swenson. I'm an academic advisor here in the School of Engineering Hub. I advise biomedical, chemical, and industrial and management engineering students. However, we wanted to open up this webinar to all students to ensure that you're able to get this information. And again, if you have friends that aren't able to attend, we'll be both recording this as well as hosting different sessions later. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll click into this in a bit as well, is the hidden curriculum. So this is something that the School of Engineering Hub puts together to give valuable resources to you as students throughout your first semester and your first year here. So now that we're in the second semester, we have courses related to taking summer courses. This specific episode is just about taking summer classes. And again, if you viewed this, a lot of this might actually be repeat information to you, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It might just seem familiar to you. So at the end of this, I will click into the hidden curriculum just so you can see what it looks like. If you have not already viewed, you will want to do that. However, really it's a resource to you, and this will be a comprehensive standing guide that you can look at any time to look at these steps in terms of getting courses approved, registering for summer courses, and the like that I'll cover right now. All right, so taking summer courses. So I began within the School of Engineering Hub in 2017 when the hub first opened. And since then, I have had a number of students who choose to take classes over the summer. This is something I'd say that a number of students do pursue. And there are a number of reasons that students decide to take classes over the summer. So there's many different reasons. I'd say honestly, we'll get into some of the reasons as well, but getting ahead of the game, taking some courses early so that you're able to create more room and more space in your schedule later are some of the reasons that students do take summer classes. But when a student takes a course outside of Rensselaer, they are considered a non-degree or non-matriculated student. So What I'll be talking about today during this webinar is both taking classes at RPI as well as taking classes at an institution outside of RPI. And you're really able to do either of those things. And the way that you're able to do that is ensuring that courses are approved for transfer at Rensselaer and then actually taking that class there, transfer your records back here. And that's really what we'll cover today. So some of the reasons that students take summer courses are to keep academically engaged, right? So some students want to keep up with their studies over the summer between their freshman and sophomore year. This can also, and I'd say this is one of the main reasons that students do take summer courses, to help you get ahead if you would like to lighten the load in future semesters in terms of courses. So we've had students who have taken a look at their course load for sophomore year, and they thought to themselves, okay, so summer is a good time for me to be able to use my time to possibly get ahead. Um, I'm a firm believer in, anything you do outside of RPI, be it taking a course, getting an internship, studying abroad, all these different things are going to put you a bit ahead in different ways. But specifically with taking courses, if you take a course, if you take 2 courses, that'll just make your upcoming semesters a bit easier because you'll be fulfilling those requirements earlier rather than later. This can also help students catch up if maybe you're a course or 2 behind. Say that you dropped a course your first semester or you're planning on dropping a course this semester. As long as you do so before March 4th, you are able to do that before the drop deadline. And I do have students who will take courses that they've dropped one semester in the summer when they have a bit more time to focus. And another reason that students take classes over the summer is that you still get credit for the course, but the course grade doesn't actually impact your GPA. So if you have AP courses, you'll be familiar with this if you've taken a look into your transcript. But the credit for the course comes over. So long as you get a C- or higher in the course, you'll actually get credit for it. But that class doesn't actually get factored into your RPI GPA. So taking classes elsewhere, taking classes and transferring them over the summer is a good way for you to be able to fulfill those requirements, again, for these different reasons that I mentioned, but also that grade does not transfer in, just that credit does. Another question that I get is, where can I take summer courses? So I'd say, some students do take courses between their freshman and sophomore year here at Rensselaer. You have the Arch. So students inherently take courses during the summer for their Arch semester between their sophomore and junior year. But if students are looking to utilize that first summer between freshman and sophomore year, some do take them at RPI, but many students do take courses either back home or at a local college or university. Um, this is because depending upon your financial aid as well, um, sometimes this isn't included within your financial aid package. It's sometimes out of pocket. And again, everyone's situation is a bit different. But if you are wanting to take classes and you're thinking about doing them out of pocket, sometimes community colleges or state universities can be a bit less expensive for those summer credits. Oftentimes, too, students want to take classes in person as they are here at Rensselaer, and they're living at home or they're living somewhere else. And again, they're utilizing their location and they're taking classes at a specific institution that either they're familiar with or is close to their home or their hometown. Later on, I'm going to show you some links and what this looks like, but RPI has documented all of the different colleges from different states, different countries that we have accepted credits from in the past. For any class that you take over the summer, you do need to get it approved. However, we do have pre-existing information about where in the past classes have transferred in from. So there's both an undergraduate transfer guide that I'll show you, and that shows you by both city, or that shows you by country, and it shows you by state as well as university exactly what courses have transferred in. For instance, say I wanted to take a class at Hudson Valley, I could go to the Hudson Valley tab, take a look at all the courses that have ever transferred in from there. That's a good place to start. But again, I'll go through the process of actually getting courses approved. You're going to need to get every course you take this summer approved ahead of time. But looking at these transfer guides is a good way to get a start. Another thing too is, for those of you who are familiar with QUACs, and you all should be, basically what the students who create QUACs have done is create a transfer guide that helps students search by specific course. anywhere that that course is transferred in from in the past. Physics 2, for instance, is a popular class that students take over the summer. So what you can do is look at the Physics 2 category and see all of the different schools in every state and every country that we have ever approved Physics 2 from. Again, you're still going to need to get this course approved, and I'll talk about that process. But this is a good place to start to say, hey, so where has it been approved in the past? And maybe if you don't really know where to start, either of these two guides are helpful. I say it's a good place to start, but not a guarantee, because summer classes in any class that's transferred to Rensselaer requires approval. This is important in that each of the schools, so School of Engineering, School of Science, School of Management, School of Valley, of APOS, have asked that they are able to review courses to ensure that they transfer. This is because course content from other places sometimes changes, course numbers can change. We just want to ensure that there is an even exchange of classes. So the class that you take somewhere else comes in here evenly. This is important for very many reasons. We want you to ensure that you're taking a class that will transfer in here, because at the end of the day, you know, you are investing your time, you're investing your money into taking this class, and we want to ensure that it's going to transfer over here. I also stress this, it is nightmare fuel to me. I've had a couple of students who got one class approved in the past. They took another, come to find out it didn't transfer. They actually had to retake it here. And then that hard work you've put in over the summer, you still end up doing the class here. It's just not something we like to see. So we really stress this process when we talk about transfer credits. And by the end, you'll know exactly how that works, and you'll have the paperwork signed off on before you take that class this summer. But really ensuring that those courses are approved through this proper process is necessary. So there's 3 basic steps to the course approval process. Step number 1 is making sure that you read the transfer credit approval form. I'll get into this in a little bit, but the registrar's office has a transfer credit approval form where you as a student will fill out the class that you took at the college that you took it, what that comes in as. You cut a couple signatures, including from your advisor. You may need to get a signature from, you know, other places on campus as well. But basically, you want to read this form. What we've done is we've digitized it into a fillable form, a Google form that we're able to use, but we really want you to take a look through this transfer credit approval form, the paper version, to read all the rules and regulations about transferring classes in. So once you have taken a look at the transfer credit approval form, the second step in this process is to collect all the information that you're going to need to submit in order to ensure that you are able to get this course approved. So this, I'll get into this in a bit, but you'll need either course descriptions or course syllabi. Make sure that you have all that information in hand so that you're able to submit it for step number 3, which is our SoE Hub transfer credit approval form, which again is a way for you to submit that information so that we can help you with that process of getting a course approved for you to later take. So step number 1 is making sure that you read that transfer credit approval form. And I'll bring that up in a little bit here as well, but really making sure that you understand the process. The transfer credit approval form, again, we've taken a PDF, we've put it online, but reading those rules are important. It lists all the different rules in terms of transferring credits. For instance, if you have, you know, you're only able to transfer in 8 transfer credits, AP, IB, or from other colleges toward your Haas core. Anything else will go to free electives. Another rule is that if you already have transferred in 8 credits toward your math or science core, you're actually going to get, you're going to require additional approval from the School of Science for you to be able to transfer in more math and science courses. Actually, I just spoke with a student about this previously. So if you, say for instance, you took Calc 1 and Calc 2, we'll need to get you approval from the School of Science for you to be able to transfer in additional math and science courses. So this and other rules can be found on the transfer credit approval form. Next, you're going to want to collect all the information that you'll need to submit when you're seeking to have a transfer course approved. So different schools, management, engineering, science, Haas, have different requirements in terms of the information that they want to have. If you're looking to take Physics 2 or you're looking to take another math or science course over the summer, for instance, a course description from that institution, typically a URL, if you can grab that link is best, you can send that in for approval. For the School of Engineering, they want to see an actual syllabus. So the way that you'll get that is you will contact the institution that you want to take the class at. Typically, they'll have the professor's contact information there, so we want to send them an email and say, hello, I need a syllabus. I'd like to take this course over the summer. I want to ensure that it transfers at my home institution. You'll also want the official course information. So the official course name and number from that institution, and then you'll want to figure out the official equivalent course name and number here at Rensselaer. So having all this information on hand will be helpful for you, but then also this is what you're going to submit for step number 3, which is the School of Engineering Hub's transfer credit approval form. So we've made this an online process to make things a bit easier for everyone. This online form is specifically for first-year engineering students to submit information for classes that they wish to take over the summer and transfer in. It takes the place of that PDF form that I mentioned earlier, but again, read through it. So I'm going to show you what this looks like at the very end, just so you get a feel for the information that you'll need. But you're going to want to submit a form and put a submission in for each individual course that you want to take. If you're taking one course, obviously you'll just put in for that one course, but say you want to take both Physics 2 and a humanities course or something like that, you're going to need to submit a form for each individual course. In addition, if you wanted to see if courses could come in from multiple institutions. Perhaps you live in an area where there's, a community college and a state college, or you live between 2 community colleges and you're kind of deciding, you haven't decided quite yet which place you'd like to take the course from. If you're going to submit approvals for multiple schools, again, multiple submissions on this form. So you'll want to make sure you have all that information that I spoke about previously for each class. So basically, you'll fill out the form. Upon submission, what the School of Engineering is going to do is collect all the information and get that to the approving departments for you. Then, upon submission, you're going to receive a confirmation email. You're going to want to keep that email safe as well. So we will basically let you know when things are approved. We will submit the information for you. And then what you're able to do from there is actually register at the college that you're looking to take this course at. I do not recommend registering for a course until you have this approved. Again, for reasons I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that the course is approved. In terms of a timeline, I get this question a lot. A lot of schools have not yet released their summer classes. I'd say look at beginning of March is typically when schools tend to release the information for the classes that they're doing over the summer. So again, this is just preliminary to kind of get out in front of this because again, I have a lot of questions from students about taking classes over the summer, but keeping in mind that for a timeline. So once you know for a fact that the class is being approved, what you'll want to do is register at that college that you're attending. I get a lot of questions on this process as well. The registration process is actually through that other college. What you'll want to look at when you're looking to take summer courses is either, summer course or non-matriculated or non-degree student. It's typically less of an application process, definitely than, for instance, when you applied to Rensselaer. So it's usually an easier process for non-matriculated students because you are just taking that one course or those couple courses as a non-degree student. So you'll go through the process through them. Typically, there's a summer study office or the registrar's office you'll go through. Usually it's pretty seamless. So with that in mind, once you're approved through us, you'll register through them. You'll take the course, you'll get a C- or higher. I mention this because that is the grade that you need in order for credits to actually transfer back. I have had students in the past who didn't get that grade and they weren't able to transfer those credits back. Make sure that you're, obviously striving for that and keep that letter grade in mind. But again, one of the reasons that students do take classes outside of Rensselaer is because the grade that you get elsewhere won't impact the GPA. Just make sure that you're meeting that grade. So you'll take the class this summer. Some classes go the full summer, from May to August. Some classes will go one half of the summer or another half of the summer. Once you complete it, what you'll want to do is have your records sent to our registrar's office to transfer credit at rpi.edu. So that process, that form, that's us doing that paperwork on your end. When you get your transcript sent into us, paperwork approval beforehand plus transcript information about you successfully completing that course with the needed grade equals credit on your transcript. So one thing I also want to cover before we get into some of these resources is registration for fall 2022 and authorization forms. So right now, you should be making a meeting with your School of Engineering Advising Hub Advisor for your SAM hold, which is your Student Advisor Meeting hold. This is a required meeting for the spring semester. We meet with you to talk about the classes you intend to take in fall, and we clear that hold for you. You are not able to register without having a SAM meeting with us. Registration begins March 21st. Freshmen typically register a bit later unless you're ROTC, a student athlete, or have early registration for another reason. However, we do recommend getting in sooner rather than later, just a plug for SAM meetings. However, when we look at SAM meetings and we're actually meeting with students about taking classes for the fall, let your advisor know that you're thinking of taking a class over the summer and what that class is. And then what we'll do is we'll create a plan for you for the fall based upon the fact that you'll be taking that class elsewhere over the summer. So depending upon the class that you take, it may end up being a prerequisite for a class that you are planning to register for in fall, for fall. So registration being March and April, you're not going to have these classes completed till possibly August. The system isn't going to recognize that you've taken this class because obviously you haven't yet. So when you register for fall courses this spring, because you will not have yet have completed those prerequisite requirements, the SIS system is actually going to prevent you from registering. So with that in mind, what you'll need to do is have an authorization form filled out by the faculty member who's teaching that course in the section that you want. So basically what you want to do is contact the faculty member and say, hey, I'm looking to take Physics 2 over the summer. I see that it's a prerequisite for IED or bioimaging. Can you sign this authorization form? So basically they will sign an authorization form, authorize you to be in that class, and then you'll be dropped into the class by the registrar's office. Yet another reason that step of getting your records transferred back over here is important, because if the registrar's office doesn't see that you've taken this course after a certain amount of time, you'll be dropped from the class. But if we have your record, it shows that you've taken the class, you've intended to take it, so that's a good thing. So again, just keep in mind that if you're registering for a course that requires one of the classes that you're taking over this summer as a prerequisite, you will want to use that authorization form. Okay, cool. So this next slide that I will show you are a bunch of links. So the first thing is the hidden curriculum. Okay, so here is our first slide here. This is something that you have been sent information on. This is a very comprehensive, detailed information about exactly what I just went over today. So how to choose summer courses, get them approved. This whole process is basically written, spelled out with smaller videos. So I definitely recommend you take a look at this. So then the next thing is this transfer credit approval form. So what I'll do with this is I'm going to throw this information into the chat hidden curriculum. The first thing I'll throw into the chat is, this walkthrough of the transfer credit process. The second thing I'm going to throw into the chat is the transfer credit approval form. So this is really the important form when it comes to this process. You'll see here that you are able to enter information for the class that you're taking. You'll put your personal information first. Again, we took all the information that was on that first, that PDF version of the form from the registrar's office and digitized it. So as you go through this process, you're going to be able to enter information. There's actually a spot that you can put a screenshot or a course description. So this Google form will collect that information for you. We do have a new staff member who is actually taking on this process. If you have questions about transfer credit approval, you'll want to reach out to Bulos, who is handling this process, the transfer credit approval process for the School of Engineering Hub. But it's pretty comprehensive. It walks you through. You can reach out to myself, your Hub Advisor, with any questions as well. So this, again, is that form. There's a couple different pages you'll submit that information in. So the third resource that I wanted to mention is related to searching up transfer credits. So we have the undergraduate transfer course guide. I'll throw that info into the chat as well. More chat. This is the transfer credit guide. This is where you're able to search by city and by state, or by state and by country rather, for classes. So for instance, we're in the state of New York, so we'll be selective. If we click New York, get institutions, we'll be able to see all the different colleges that students have transferred classes in from the past. And for any class, you're going to need to get it approved, but this is kind of a good place to start to know what has been approved in the past. So for instance, let's see here. I do a Control F for Physics 2. Hudson Valley Community College, Physics 151, Physics 2 has transferred in the past. So we can look up that information this way. If you don't see the college that you're looking to take a class from on this list, that is totally okay. It most likely means that a student hasn't taken it there previously. Some students are from out of state. There are different colleges that students haven't taken classes from in the past. That approval process is really going to kind of get you through that. And if you go through the approval process and it's approved, eventually you'll help that next student who decides to take a class at an institution that wasn't already listed on here. We also have here the PHYS data. So it's kind of like a reverse transfer guide. The one I just showed you shows by school. This shows by class. So for instance, if we wanted to see Physics 2, we can click into this by class, and then you can see all of the different places and all the different countries and schools that we've ever had Physics 2 transferred from. This is probably the most popular class that students take over the summer. So all this information is right here. So that's kind of like a reverse transfer guide. And I threw that into the chat as well. Next, I want to show you what the authorization form looks like. So if you do need to take a class, if you need to register for a class that you're not going to have that prerequisite for because you're taking that over the summer, the authorization form is what you'll use there. Next, here is the PDF version of that form. What we want you to look over for that step number 1, which was looking at the rules, is really the second page right here, which shows all the different rules and regulations for transferring credits in. So that's what you'll want to use. And then last but not least, I put for another resource, your School of Engineering Advising Hub Advisor. So if you have questions about registration, if you have questions about registering specifically for summer courses, we're glad to help. you can make a meeting with us here at this link, which most of you should be familiar with. And really, we're here as a resource to kind of walk you through this. But what we have tried to do with all of this is make everything as seamless as possible so that you can get those courses approved to take elsewhere over the summer. All right, so that basically concludes everything I wanted to talk about. What I'd like to do is open up the I guess the session to any questions that you might have. What you can do if you would like is enter any questions that you have in the chat. That way we'll have a record of them. Or if you're comfy, you can go ahead and speak up as well. But having a chat record is good too, so I can share with my coworkers the different questions that students have.
I have a question about when you need to turn in the forms by, because the school that I'm trying to get transfer credits from, they still haven't posted their summer schedule. So I don't know what the deadline is for this.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of students are in that boat. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So really, as soon as that information comes out, you can go ahead and get the process started with us. You want to have the approval process done before you register for that course. So registration for the courses typically happens, March, April, May. So have the process done by then. Um, so I guess the long story short would be as soon as that information is available, but really if you get the approval before you leave for the summer and before you actually register for that course, you're good to go.
Thank you.
No problem. Do we have any other questions? I will just talk. I'll just bring up some kind of random thoughts about transfer credits and students' experiences. So before we do that, I do have a question here. Do we know who Aero majors would book their SAM appointment with? So you should have received an email about your new advisor for the Aero major. I'm gonna write down your information, and what I can do is ensure that we contact you as well. So each Aero student has their own, basically, everyone has there's a group of faculty who are advising. So there are a couple that advise Aeros. I'm going to write down your info here, but you should have received an email about who your advisor would be there for to help you with your SAM hold. There will also be group advising for SAM holds too. So let me get back to you on that. And again, I've written down your information. All right. Do we have any other questions about transfer credits in the meantime? Some things to look out for and to consider about taking summer classes. Students will ask, is this a good idea? Should I be doing this? My personal thought is that anything you do kind of outside of RPI that puts you a bit ahead, it's a good thing. I would also consider, though, what your summer looks like. Some students, for instance, have obligations. Perhaps, they work or they travel or, they do something the second half of the summer. So I would take a look into the classes that you want to take, but also consider when they're offered. For instance, if you're taking physics 2, oftentimes that takes place from, July to August, so keeping that in mind. If you have something going on the first half of the summer, perhaps you'll want to do the second half and vice versa. Um, and yeah, just kind of keeping in mind what works for you. Also look into timing too. So I know students who have, summer jobs or summer internships. Oftentimes they'll take classes in the evening rather than earlier in the day. So those are some of the things to look out for, is to make sure that this works around your schedule too. All right, we have a question here. Bunch of good questions. When do colleges give out a catalog of their summer courses? So it really kind of depends from college to college. Not very many have theirs listed right now, but I would say take a look in early March, and that's typically when things are posted. So catalogs in terms of classes, mostly you're able to just find that kind of as they have a search online. Sometimes colleges have seen one or two that have had a full PDF version of all the classes that they offer over the summer. So if your college hasn't, released their summer classes yet, don't worry, it's coming. In the meantime, I would just keep an eye out and, think about that early March time period and checking back. All right. Do we have any other questions related to this presentation, etc.? Anything I can help with while I'm on the line here? Oh, good question here. Will RPI accept online summer credits? It depends. So that's what the approval process is for. So in the past, we have had students take classes over the summer that were online. This is also a function of COVID. In the past, we had a couple of students take classes online. Obviously, last summer, the summer before, most classes were taken online. So that approval process is really what you'll want to go through. And if it's online, just make sure that the information you provide reflects that, and we'll go from there. All right, cool. Anything else from anyone else? All right, so we will go ahead and stop our session here. So I wanted to thank you all again so much for being here this evening, and have a good rest of your evening. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your Hub Advisor. Right, have a good night.